Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Ellery coming at you live from Pensacola, Florida. Join with me, as always, out in the beautiful Cleveland, Ohio area. Dustin, how are we living?
Well, it is sunny. The weather, is kind of bipolar here. It's 61 day, 45. That's Cleveland weather. We'll have Ralph on here. He grew up outside of Detroit, so he knows what weather in the Midwest is like. It never can make up its mind between February and April. That's kind of the case. So, yeah, Allie, a lot to get into today. A lot of stuff just today kind of broke for the Cleveland Browns over the last couple of days. But we're going to get to a lot of that. But we're excited to have Ralph Holley Jr., the newly assigned defensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns. Got to spend a little time on the phone with him. Really excited to talk to him here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk to you about tonight, everybody. This is where things really get fun, especially as podcasters. A lot of news to talk about as it pertains to your Cleveland Browns. And of course, just a lot of excitement right now with some moves that were made, some possible moves that may be made here in the next few days. And again, as we kind of look ahead to the NFL draft, that's exciting. We have, just a lot to talk about tonight. So stay tuned. But we're going to go ahead and bring our friend Ralph Holley Jr. on. This interview is going to be brought to you by our friends over at Lake Erie Distillery. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about Lake Erie Distillery?
That's right, guys. The local choice for world-class, award-winning spirits, ingredients right here from Northeast Ohio. They use mash provided by local farmers for free, livestock feed, community invested. They are just a great community, and we're really excited. I got to spend some time out there, Allie, this weekend. I got to make a Here We Go Brownies shot, a Here We Go Brownies mule, and a Here We Go Brownies cocktail. And we're going to, I guess this is kind of announcing it now, but there'll be an invite going out. We're going to do a Here We Go Brownies pre-draft party out there on a Saturday evening from 5 to 8 where everybody can try these new drinks. Allie, I got to tell you, it was kind of fun just sitting there mixing the drinks, kind of being a mixologist and having fun. But we came up with a shot. We came up with a cocktail and a Here We Go Brownies mule. So it was a lot of fun. And we have some videos that we're going to drop showing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I can see you behind the bar now, Dustin.
Well, wait till you see the video.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see it. All right, let's go ahead and bring him on. We're going to welcome Ralph Holley Jr. onto the program. Ralph, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time for us. We really appreciate it.
So Ralph, where are you hanging out now? You're not in Cleveland until April, I think you told me, right? You're coming up first of April?
Yeah, first week of April, I'm gonna be up there. I'm currently down in Atlanta right now training.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. So let's just get into it. I'm curious if you can just paint the picture of kind of a typical day in the off season for Ralph. What's this look like as you prepare for training camp and, as we gear up for the season? What does right now look like for you?
Yeah, for me, to be honest, it's pretty building a routine before the season even starts, getting used to waking up in the morning just so it's second nature. So I usually get up around, 6 a.m. I pray, eat breakfast, and then I head to my first workout of the day, which is usually like position specific. I work with my D-line coach, Dez, who works with me with a lot of D-line and pass rush specific stuff. Then I leave and I go get me a little snack and I head to my my second workout, which is like my strength and conditioning. So it's the conditioning part's a lot of running and everything like that, change direction. Just make sure I'm nimble on my feet and everything. And then after that, we go straight into the lift. I lift for about 2 hours. By this time, when I'm done with the lift, it's about 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. And then I come home, I rest, and then I go to to a mobility center where I just work on, they just I have a sports doctor, and he, the stretches. I go to the ice chamber, hyperbaric chamber, and I just, take care of my body. Then I just sleep, play the game, and relax.
And
Yeah,
then repeat tomorrow, right? And do the next thing the
every
next.
day,
Yeah.
every day.
I got to tell you, I was talking to you about this on the phone. Your path to the NFL is very similar to Felix Wright, a friend of the program, and had a very successful career in the organization in the NFL with the Browns, where he went from being a great athlete in high school, college, trying to make his way, found himself eventually in Canada playing football, and then got the call to come try out, get that opportunity, and he made the most of it. And I think it's a fascinating story where you kind of have that same path where you just put your head down, worked hard. I mean, you were a champion in high school,
Yeah.
college, you beat University of Nevada, Reno. I like that. I'm a Boise State guy. I went to school there, so I like when you beat UNR. But you're a Bronco too, right? So I gotta like you too, because you're home of your college team's the Broncos. But just tell us about that path and how you weaved and never given up and finally signing. I mean, your smile was so big when you signed that contract because you're like, I made it, playing in the National Football League. What is that like?
Yeah.
And just kind of walk us through that journey.
Man, it was just my story, is different from everybody else. Everybody else has a different pathway. But, my story is just riddled with, ups and downs and everything like that. And just not giving up on myself and trusting God and trusting myself. I was, it was just tough for me. In college, it was great. I was very, well, let me start in high school. In high school, I didn't even start really liking football till my sophomore year of high school, honestly. And once I bought all into football, it just started unfolding. I didn't really lose in high school at all. I mean, we won 3 state championships back to back to
Yeah.
back. Yeah, and and sometimes I was getting a little discouraged because I went to a really prestigious high school, Orchard Lake St. Mary's High
Yeah.
School, and all my friends were getting offers left and right, and I didn't end up getting my offer till my junior year on my birthday by Miami of Ohio.
Mm.
And after that, everything just unfolded. A whole bunch of schools just started coming
Yeah.
in and everything like that, which was crazy. So, but then when I got to college, I picked Western Michigan because PJ Fleck was there at the time, and they just came off a Cotton Bowl run where
Yeah.
they went undefeated and lost in the Cotton Bowl by like a touchdown. But I was like, I want to be a part of that. Also, I want to be close to home, farther enough away from my parents, but close enough to where they, if an emergency happened, they could come and see
Sure.
me and everything. But yeah, Western, I loved Western. It was a beautiful place, Kalamazoo. I loved everybody there. The fans there were amazing. My coaches there, Tim Lester was our head coach. Lou Esposito was my defensive line coach, and David Denham was my defensive line coach, who both are coaches at University of Michigan now. Um, but they crafted my game and the play style I am, and like from when I was a freshman up until now. I mean, honestly, I still keep in contact with those two. So it was amazing. But coming from coming out of coming out of college and getting into the pros, it was difficult, and I didn't get signed by anybody coming out the draft, which was kind of discouraging. But it was just like a thing of, I just got to work. I just have to work harder, and I never took that mentality out from anywhere I went. And it ended up leading me to where I'm at. I let my work speak for me more than me talking, more than me posting anything on social media. I just feel like my hard work is the determinant factor in my life as a athlete.
Yeah, and I mean, you're coming to a Cleveland Browns organization that need help at the interior of the defensive line. The defense needs help, and just going back and looking at your career, even from high school to now, Ralph, you've had a lot of production, a lot of TFLs, a high number of sacks, and I find that very intriguing coming from the interior of the defensive line. Can you talk to us just a little bit about your play style and how you were able to kind of achieve a lot of that production?
Yeah, well, my play style is really determined on like just my aggressiveness off the ball. Um, I have never been, the prototypical defensive tackle size. But I pride myself on my production. I was like, I'm not the 6'5", 300 and something pound D tackle, but I'll produce for you regardless. Like, and I play with so much aggression and so much anger and so much, I just play with so much heart, and I pride myself on my get off. My get off is in my quickness off the ball. I'm right now. I play even in Toronto. I played at 300 pounds, and I never lost a step of speed, a step of quickness, and that just helped me with stopping the run. I like to pride myself on getting in the backfield and creating disruption. That's the main thing, and either that turns into a sack, a tackle, or a TFL. I'm gonna get something if I'm in the backfield. So.
Well,
Go ahead, Dustin.
as I say, you're going to fit in just perfect in Cleveland. You're going to, you're going to be a dog, as they like to say here. So you're going to you're going to be that dog defense. But yeah, your journey has been so fascinating. Tell us a little bit about your time in Canada and what you think that might have done this go around to get I believe you actually went and visited with the half dozen or more NFL teams before Andrew Berry and the Browns signed you. But walk us through that path where the NFL was starting to notice you up there in Canada and said, this guy's the real deal. And I know you had that out in your contract that you can go sign with an NFL team, but walk us through that, because like you said, you always bet on yourself, right? And you never gave up on yourself and always believed in yourself. And you knew that you could play at this level, and clearly you're here now. But walk us through that. And then when did those calls and those folks at the NFL start saying, hey, we'd like to bring you in and give you a try?
Yeah. So like my time in Toronto was a very, surreal moment. It was so much fun. I love the CFL. The fans there were amazing. Toronto, the fans there are insane, but they are great people, and they are very supportive. That's why I love coming to Cleveland, because I know how the fans are in Cleveland as well.
Insane.
So yeah, I love it. But no, so I started off on the practice roster in Toronto, which I was grateful for. I was like, I'm playing pro football. I'm happy where I'm at. God has a plan for me, whether it's on the practice roster or on active roster. Um, but I was on the practice roster for 3 games, and then injuries started happening, as happens in football. And I wasn't even the third string D tackle. I was almost the fourth, fifth D tackle. And the coach, he was like, Holly, are you ready to play? I was like, trust me. Yeah, I am. Yeah. So once my time came, my first game up, I ended up getting a sack, a couple tackles, and from that point on, they never took me down, and I ended up, actually, being the sack leader, or a joint sack leader, in the league, and and I had a bunch of tackles. They don't count TFLs in the CFL.
Sure.
I didn't know, and they also don't have half sacks in the TFL and the CFL as well. So, I was looking at my stats on the CFL. It's like, it says I have 8 here, but it says I have 10 on PFF. So I was just like,
Go with the
okay,
PFF ones. Go with the PFF ones.
that's
Those are
what I'm
better.
saying. Yeah. So I ended up leading the league in sacks, as a rookie defensive tackle from the interior, which is unheard of, but it's not unheard of for me, because I'm like, this is what I produce. This is
Yeah.
my gameplay. Like, this is the way my play style. But yeah, and after that, like, we ended up winning the Grey Cup, which was
Mhm.
crazy. But I didn't even have time to celebrate with my team, because literally as soon as the Grey Cup ended, my agent calls me. It was like maybe 2 days after the Grey Cup ended. He was like, Tennessee called. They want you to come work out. And after that Tennessee workout, it's just workout after workout. Then I went to the Browns second, and then I think it was like seven or 8 teams that had
Wow.
called. I couldn't even work out with all of them before my
Wow.
sign date. So,
But that says a lot. That says a lot about what they saw with
Yeah.
you, and I mean that says a lot about what they saw on tape and what you did as a player. I think that speaks volumes for it.
yeah,
Like I said, I know when you get to Cleveland, Felix and I want to meet up with you because he was excited about your journey, how you came through the CFL to get to the Browns. He's like, we're gonna have another one that's gonna have a successful career. So he was excited. So we'll have to get together.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
you met with, or you had calls and opportunities with some of these other NFL teams. I mean, half a dozen. Why Cleveland? What made you settle on Cleveland?
Cleveland had a plan for me,
Mm.
as far as off-season plan, in-season plan, and they really the way their defense is set up and the way that they play, I fit. That's the defense I grew up playing in from high school all through college through the pros, and it's a defense I'm familiar with. And the coach has the D line coach. I talked to him maybe the other day, and he was explaining his story to me and his philosophy of the defensive line. And it fits every ideal that I want in the organization. I got a chance to meet the coaches, GMs and everything. So the 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 ideology and the vision they had for me and for the team, is something that I really stuck with. And they seem like people of high character as well. As fun, and also like the culture there and everything like that. It was just it seemed like the right choice to make. And with as far as the fan base in the town, and it's close the same way from I'm so thankful that I have been having this opportunity, but I've always been in a 3-hour radius of my family.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say you went from Michigan to Toronto to Cleveland. All you've done is went
Yeah,
around Lake Erie the whole time. Like you've literally just
exactly.
so,
Exactly.
so my question: did you grow up? Did you grow up a Lions fan? I'm assuming growing up, or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. My mother and my sister, they went to U of M. So I grew up as a U of M fan first. Everybody's a Michigan fan in Michigan,
Sure.
or unless you went to state. But no, yeah, I grew up a Detroit Lions fan,
Okay.
for sure. It was, it's hard being a Lions fan, but yeah,
And then that changed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
So I want to talk a little bit about your time at the CFL, because some of the rules are different. And if you've never watched a CFL game, you're gonna watch it and be like, oh, this looks a little bit different, especially the defense lined up a little bit off the ball. I think it's
Yeah.
a yard off of the offensive line. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about maybe what that transition is going to be like now back to American football rules in the NFL, because that's how you played in college. You
Yeah.
were, on the line of scrimmage, then you go to the CFL, you're off the line of scrimmage, and now you're back on the line of scrimmage. What's that adjustment going to look like for you, do you think?
Oh, I'm gonna love the adjustment because I
Yeah.
think the CFL actually challenged me in like my
Mm,
get off and the way the play style I play. I think it made it harder for me in the CFL because everything is like I'm rushing from a DN standpoint, from a
sure.
defensive end standpoint. It's just like everything's far off the ball, and I think that just made me a better player in general. Especially when I come back, when I'm now that I'm back down in the states. You know, I'm excited to see, the way it translates back, because definitely was harder to get. It was hard to get adjusted to that in the CFL. I was lining up off sides so many times, like, but I think it'll be good for me though.
That's awesome.
That's
Go ahead,
awesome.
Dustin.
No, I was gonna say I just really appreciate your time tonight and giving us your time.
Yeah.
And I said, well, when you get to Cleveland, we'll have to get together with Felix. And I know he was excited to meet him when I told him your story. So he's like, oh, let's go take him to somewhere, one of the new cool food places here, because you told me you're a foodie. So you're gonna
Oh
love
yeah,
Cleveland. It's got a lot of great food. So
yes sir. I
Yeah.
love to eat.
All right, Ralph, I'll get you out of here on this one. Just as this show is by the fans for the fans. So if you can relay a message to Cleveland Browns fans everywhere, who are the Browns getting in Ralph Holley Jr.?
And the Browns are getting a hard worker, an underdog, and somebody who will affect the game regardless of the situation. So that's what they're getting.
Awesome.
yeah, I
Perfect.
love
Hey,
it.
thanks for taking the time for us. We appreciate it.
No problem. Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you.
Hey,
Go
you as
Browns.
well. Go Browns. Take care.
Go Browns. Yes.
All right, that is Ralph Holley Jr. Dustin. The energy. I love it.
Yeah, he's got that dog in him. He's got that
He's
dog
got
in
the
him.
dog. He's got that dog in him. That interview was brought to you by our friends over at Lake Erie Distillery. And I think that was the very appropriate sponsor for that segment. As you mentioned, he just kind of has traveled around Lake Erie. So Lake Erie Distillery, it's a good fit.
Things work out for a reason. That's what we do, right? But no, I got to tell you, like his story and his journey, it kind of reminds me of D'Anthony Bell when we had D'Anthony Bell on the show. This guy that just worked his tail off, and he said, "You're going to put me in and make me be in that game. Like I'll show you." And just like like the coach said up in Canada, "Are you ready to go in?" He goes, "I've been waiting for this moment. Let's go." And all of a sudden it turned into that moment. So, I got a soft spot for him. He beat a rival team, which was one of the college I went to, which I hate that team that he beaten. And he's also a Bronco. So I got to root for the guy, right?
It's really cool. Yeah, no, you're right. The D'Anthony Bell reference, that was kind of what I was thinking during that interview. When we met with D'Anthony Bell just a few years ago, I remember getting off of that interview saying, man, this guy is you can just tell he's a hard worker, underdog. And I got a lot of that. I got a lot of that out of Ralph. So really excited for him. Wishing him all the best. Yes.
I like that he said Andrew Berry had a plan for him every step of the way. So that tells me maybe we got a little insight there that he's going to be a significant part of the defensive unit going forward. So
it's possible,
but you're right. His production everywhere he's played, he's been a baller. He's balled out, which you love to see that.
You'll love to see it. All right, a couple of ad reads here. We're going to take a quick break, and then we got a ton to talk about before we bring David on. So first off, want to give a shout out to our friends over at Stadium Mustard. If you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you're doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. By the way, it's loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about City Barbecue?
Yeah, guys, City Barbecue. Speaking of another event, we're looking at doing something in April where we're going to invite folks out to Avon, Ohio, where one of the 6 Northeast Ohio City Barbecue locations are on a Saturday to just do a sampling of barbecue. My gosh, does that not sound fun? A whole sampling of barbecue, trying all the different flavors, but we're going to invite people out to come out and try all that barbecue, do that on a Saturday in April to come enjoy some amazing City Barbecue, 6 Northeast Ohio locations. Get it for going home at lunch, dinner, or catering, weddings, whatever. They do it all, but it's a really, really good barbecue. And I got to tell you what I love about their barbecue, Allie, is they have the actual wood-fired thing right outside the restaurant where they're actually feeding like the wood into, so you're getting that natural barbecue. So it's the real deal.
It's a real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you have it. Also, want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at True Fan Travel. They're taking over stadiums and cities worldwide. They are fueled by the passion of the most dedicated fans. True Fan Travel unites fans through all-inclusive sports travel with seamless accommodations and exclusive experiences. Together, they create unforgettable memories that celebrate the love of the game and being together. So be sure to check them out over at True Fan Travel. All right. I guess my question to you is, where would you like to start?
Well,
I think
it went from a slow. Well, let's start with the elephant in the room. I'm sitting on my couch, kind of as I'm just going to put this on a weekend, kind of as a depressed Browns fan. I'm just going to call it for what it is. I was a depressed Browns fan, just hanging out on my couch, and I get this freaking beep, 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 beep news alert that Myles Garrett has signed a 4-year extension with the Cleveland Browns and a no trade clause at 4. I'm like, what universe am I living in right now? Because all the smoke, all the fire out there was, I'm gone, I'm leaving, we're going, I'm going to find a team. And then I'm like, holy crap, he's basically going to retire a Brown. I mean, he's going to be a Brown for life. The next 6 years takes him to be almost 35, 36. I'm like, holy crap, that flipped. So we can start there. Like that sent free agency into a tailspin before it even started.
So what was your initial thought when you saw that? Did you have a sense of relief? Were you like, what the hell? Like, what was kind of going through your brain when you got that news alert?
Well, I will tell you this. I own 2 Myles Garrett jerseys. I love him. I posted on our socials Bronco the Bulldog has a 95 Myles Garrett jersey he wears downtown. Like, I love everything that Myles Garrett stands for as a Brown. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's given everything as a fan. I mean, as a player, he's given everything to the fans and the organization. But I also, as a fan, can understand, damn it, I haven't won a Super Bowl. I want to play for a contender. As a fan, I completely understand that. And that the last few years has not been the way you thought this was going to go, Myles. I get it from just wanting to win a chip. I will live with that all day long. But then I was like, I like it, but we better damn well fix things now going forward, because I don't want him to become Joe Thomas, that he can't lift the Lombardi or at least get to an AFC championship in the next 6 years. That was the next thing that kind of set in my mind. And then I actually went down like, why? Because we hadn't had the stuff from Mary Kay come out yet that said he had a change of heart and all that. But what I think did happen is, as you know, before the weekend, Bosa and all these guys, boom, boom, at his position hit the free agent market. And so all of a sudden there was a lot of players out there immediately that were at his, that were out there for teams to snatch up. And I think when the Browns came back and offered him that, I think he knew that he wasn't going to get that deal with any other team. And at the end of the day, it's a what if. You can wish you can go win a Super Bowl, but it's never guaranteed. And I thought about Kareem Hunt, how Kareem Hunt signed with the Kansas City Chiefs because he wanted to win a ring, and they didn't win a ring this year. So you can't predict the future. You can try to put a path in place that's going to maybe happen, but it's a maybe at the end of the day. It's not guaranteed. So that's kind of where my mind went through that whole process when I heard that.
Okay. So were you relieved? Were you confused? Like what were you thinking?
I was confused at first. Like,
Okay.
was this April Fool's in March? But I was like, okay, this is like ESPN and every news outlet reporting it. But I was really happy. Like, I was super happy. Like, I became overjoyed. I jumped up and I said the F word real loud. Like, F yeah. Like, thank God he stayed. Like, I was happy, right? I was overjoyed. But I was like, what just happened in the last 48 hours? Based on
So I wasn't confused as to like, oh my God, the timing's weird. I'm confused as to like, what was that? What was the point of all of that? I mean, for the Browns, I mean, one thing about the Cleveland Browns, say what you want about them, about this front office, about this ownership group. You can say a lot, but one thing you can't say is that they're cheap. They will pay their players. They have paid their players, and they have paid them quite handsomely, for better or for worse. That was never the issue.
Right.
Myles was always going to get paid. I don't think that was ever the concern. Nathan Zegura, when we had him on, he hinted that, hey, this is going to get figured out. Not really worried about the Myles Garrett situation. But what I personally cannot comprehend is if that was the case, and that was kind of the conversation within the building, that we're going to get a deal done, what was the point in going on Radio Row at the Super Bowl and saying what you said in the way that you did it? I don't think at any point it was to force the Browns' hand to pay him. They were always going to do that. And to think, Myles went out and said, I will literally do whatever it takes to get out of Cleveland. Well, that's crazy. So, and he also questioned other players on the team in terms of their work ethic. I think that's a lot. That's doing a lot just to get out of Cleveland. And then to be like, I want to win a Super Bowl, and being adamant on that stance. I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to win a Super Bowl. That is the only thing that I'm chasing. I don't care about getting to Canton. I want to win a Super Bowl. So then that the Browns pay him. So what does that make Myles out to be? A liar? He doesn't care about the Super Bowl? Or is this more in the sense, and I think this is probably more it, that the Browns and Myles had a conversation, and I think Jake Burns outlined this in a kind of a unique perspective, that probably what happened, especially with that no trade clause, is, hey, we're going to give you this extension that if you want to retire Brown, you're given that option. But also here in the next 2 years, give us 2 years to get this figured out, kind of right this ship. And you hold the leverage at that point. You're going to get paid handsomely. And also, because there's no trade clause, you get to determine where you get to go. That kind of holds us back in terms of the organization and what we can get for you. But at that point in your career, you're still in your prime. This is kind of a win-win in the sense that after maybe 2-3 years, you can say, peace out, I'm gone, and actually go play for a contender. But for now, you're giving us a little bit more flexibility to kind of manipulate this team to get kind of back to where we were, prior to this year. So I think it's a little bit of that, but I'm confused. Like, what the hell was all of that and for what?
Well, obviously what he did on Super Bowl, during the week of leading up to the Super Bowl, he did all that, right? We know that. And I think he wholeheartedly felt that way. I don't think that was for show or anything, but I truly do believe he had a change of heart. And I'll give you some examples where, as this drug out further and further, and the Browns were like, no, we don't want to trade you. We think you are the heart and soul of our team, right, at the end of the day. And then you had people like David Njoku coming out going, come on, man, we came in the league together. Don't give up on this. We got this. We're not that far off. If we figure out the quarterback position, we're going to be just fine, Miles. I think as this played out further and further and further, like with anything, like your first gut feeling is this, and then you kind of take everything in and you can change your mind, right? I mean, that's what we're human beings at the end of the day. We're not robots. And I do think his agent has a lot of respect around the league. She's very well respected and very honest and truthful. And I think he did have a change of heart at the end of the day. I think he really said, I can go play for somewhere else, but what if I don't get a ring? And it was all for naught. And I did all this, and I could have retired a Brown and been like a Joe Thomas that's, looked at forever as this amazing person that stayed with him. I mean, like, the legacy is a part of that, and what you were looked at upon as your fan base. And I think he did genuinely have a change of heart. And I think when the Browns put a 4 in front of that number, I think he was like, okay, well, you're going to make me the highest paid, and you really do.
Well, that's going to change your heart pretty damn quickly. I mean, look, I think.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that probably said to him, you value me more than quarterback that you still have on the roster with a large salary. I think those kind of things go into somebody's mind, like, okay, you just made me basically the highest paid player on the team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I am the number one.
Not only, I mean, the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. This is quite significant.
But that's what I'm saying.
And I want to be frank. I am happy. I'm happy that he is back with the team. I just think this whole situation, it was so confusing. It was mind-blowing. This was unprecedented. This hasn't happened prior in the NFL. This was a crazy situation. And the Browns are always kind of at the forefront of crazy situations. They're always dealing with that. I think your perspective is an optimistic way of looking at it. I think, at the end of the day, got a 4 in front of that number, and of course you're gonna very, very quickly have a change of heart. You can hate your job, but if you're getting paid well enough to do it, you're gonna kind of stick anything out. So I also think that it very much so says the Browns are taking a quarterback at 2. That really kind of shores things up, especially when
I don't think they are.
Say that again.
I don't think they are. I think, to me, that almost says that they're not taking a quarterback at number 2. That's what but I'm a different opinion of this. I don't know if that says that. And I'll tell you, if you'd like, why I think that. It's okay, because
spell it out.
Because and we're going to get into this, but if you take
Carter,
but if you take a Carter at 2, and match him with Myles Garrett, and you bring a Russell Wilson in, and you have some formidable wide receivers to throw to, that's a pretty good football team. That's going to get you more than 5 or 6 wins next year. Like, I'm just saying,
Dustin, I hear you, but I want to stop you because just last week on this program, you sat here and said you cannot win anything without a quarterback. You were pounding the table. The Browns are taking a quarterback at 2. You can look at some of these teams that have all-world defenses, and what does that matter? It doesn't. You have to be able to score points. Right. Now, I think that there are options. And I don't mean to cut you off. I'm not trying to discredit what you're saying.
This is what's good. It's debate. I love it.
Yes, but I think to do anything in the National Football League right here in the year of our Lord 2025, you have to be able to score offensive points. Now, I don't know what that means and how the Browns value a player like Travis Hunter. If they value him more as a receiver, we can open up that conversation in terms of offensive value. If it's defensive, I think this really kind of hammers the point of, well, yeah, you can have an all-world defense, but if you can't do anything on offense, what's that matter? And I think we saw a lot of that last year, Dustin, where the defense was the same defense that we had 2 years ago that was lights out, but the
But they were
offense
getting
could
damaged
not
because they
keep up. Yeah, exactly. So I think, in my opinion, with the Browns bringing back Miles or securing Miles for the foreseeable future, that says, hey, even though Abdul Carter is nice, we have a first ballot Hall of Famer pass rusher. We're good. We're good for now on the defensive side of the ball at number 2 overall.
So let me give you this. I'll flip the script a little bit on that, and I agree with where you're going with this. But say you bring in Russell Wilson and you draft Travis Hunter at number 2, who is by far, many people think, is the best athlete to come out of this draft, period.
Yeah.
So you put Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, Njoku, and all that with a Russell Wilson. I think that can definitely win you football games. I
agree. Yeah.
So,
but I don't know if that wins you the football game, right? Like, I don't know if for the window, we're talking about the window that the Browns have here and what that looks like, even for Miles, even if that is the case where, hey, 2-3 years down the line with a no trade clause, he can get out, let's just say we've got a 2 to 3 year window. I mean, I don't disagree. Russ, Kirk, Aaron, these guys can come in and win you football games. That's a conversation we'll have, but did they get you over the hump? I don't know that.
I was having this debate with Ray, and I was getting Ray really worked up before the show, and that's maybe where I'm having my fun today. But he's all in on Russell Wilson. He's excited if Russell Wilson signed with the Browns. And he brought up a lot of interesting points, and I don't understand this because Metcalf is now with the Steelers and all those things. And Russ put up over 4,000 yards last year, and he didn't even play the entire season. And I'm sitting there going, and that's in an offense of the Steelers that isn't going to go light you up, right? And I'm like,
I agree with that.
Why the hell did the Steelers give up on that? Because clearly Russ could show that he could still cook a little, and I just, you know what I'm saying? It's weird.
So here's what I'm with you on. Out of all of the quarterback options, veteran quarterback options right now that are available, potentially Kirk, and he's not available currently, but potentially Kirk, Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers, and Russ. Let's talk about those guys. Out of all of those, to fit in this scheme that Kevin Stefanski wants to run, I think Russ actually does make the most sense. I think he's got the highest upside. I love Joe. We loved him in Cleveland, but obviously age is a big factor. Russ does make sense in that regard.
Yeah.
I just think, I just want to see the Browns make an investment at quarterback. Right. They've done it twice. Well, outside of they've drafted for a first round quarterback in the top 10 twice in my lifetime. Obviously, they have attempted investment in quarterback, Deshaun Watson. That didn't work. But I'm dying to see them get this right. And maybe that is the case where they still bring in a Russ and they sit this rookie quarterback. Maybe that is the case. That is what I'm hoping for. I think it does make sense. I'm with you there.
Well, and here's where, when we all saw this in the office, and I'm like, oh God, here comes Russell Wilson, right? He's making a trip to Cleveland. Because here's one thing Russell Wilson is going to be very adamant about. He wants to start. He's not going to want to be the bridge guy this year that takes over for
all of these guys are going to want to start. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I was thinking that in the back of my head, well, he's probably going to ask for a 2-year deal, maybe, but he gets one. And if that is the scenario, I'm sitting there going, well, maybe all the smoke screens, and this is what teams do, the smoke screens, the Nathans, the girls, we love them. But part of that is you don't want to show your cards when you're drafting, right? That's part of the game and the gamesmanship. But maybe Travis Hunter has been their guy all along, and they wanted him at number 2. Yeah. And look, the Titans just showed their hand by signing that, the left tackle. I mean, and throwing all the money.
Kevin Zeitler, the guard, former Cleveland Browns legend. Kevin Zeitler.
Yeah. So, but you got that happening. But then, okay, if you're bringing in Russ Wilson, you can go for a quarterback at the top of the second round, like a Dart or someone like that, and you can set him if he's in the second round, or Will Howard in the third if that looks like something you like. If that's your guy and you've look at all 7 of these quarterbacks and you're like, you know what, it's too high to take a quarterback there because really, if this was a different draft, he's a bottom of the first or top of the second. I'm just like, however they're evaluating, if it was a different draft here with other quarterbacks, I can be on board with that because especially if they're saying Russell Wilson's our starter and we draft Travis Hunter, you got a kind of exciting offense to watch. Now you got Hunter, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got.
So with that, I'm getting a little bit annoyed at people online. Like, look, I got on this podcast last year saying, hey, Russ, he's not cooking. He is cooked. And I still think that's true in some instances. He is not the Russell Wilson of several years ago.
Well, of course it's not, right.
However, of course. However, I see everybody kind of pounding the table, bring Joe Flacco back, but completely saying, hey, absolutely not to Russ, absolutely not to Kirk, absolutely not to Aaron. So but why? You know what I mean? Like why? If we could bring in Joe Flacco that nobody expected and, literally off of his couch, it's not the end of the world. Here's my other thing. We have been through it at quarterback. The Browns made a terrible decision in bringing Deshaun Watson in that split the fan base. It made podcasting incredibly difficult. It made fans leave this fan base and go root for somebody else. I think if you can kind of deal with Deshaun Watson and his allegations, personally, so what if Russ is a little bit weird? I think I'd rather have that, than a really heavy situation that you have with Deshaun. I think that right now fans are frustrated with this quarterback situation and the lack of clarity. And because this isn't exactly the most renowned quarterback draft class, so it's not like you can go get a Joe Burrow. You can't. There's no surefire thing. There isn't. And I understand that that's scary, but I think that there are some options. Yeah. And real quick, before we bring David on, because we got a couple of things to talk about there, I also want to talk about this, and that is Kenny Pickett. The Browns did trade for Kenny Pickett, gave up DTR in a 5th round. Obviously not great. Look, I think I'm concerned by this. I'm concerned for a couple of reasons, Dustin, because I believe that in most scenarios, Kenny Pickett is going to be most likely your 3rd string quarterback. In these examples that we just outlined, if you bring in a Russ and you draft anybody, I would imagine Kenny Pickett's probably going to be your 3rd string quarterback. And if that's the case, you just gave up a player that has been in this system for a while and also a draft pick for a 3rd string quarterback. I got to tell you, I don't love that.
Here's the thing. I'll look at it a little different because, at first glance, I kind of was, what are we doing here? What the hell is the Browns doing? And I looked at it. I dug a little deeper and I was like, okay, he's got friends in the front office of the Philadelphia Eagles, right? This was a very friendly type of trade, right? Like, obviously this was discussed, but I looked at it this way, just like you were saying, this guy is not going to be the starter for the Cleveland Browns. God forbid, unless we go through 6 quarterbacks like a couple of years ago. Kenny Pickett's not going to be probably starting, but is he a really solid backup? Well, yeah, because he's had a lot of starts. And but hear me out. He's had. No, hear me out though. How many starts has DTR had in the NFL? A handful, if we're lucky. Like, I'm just saying, when you look at reps, like how many times a quarterback has taken a rep?
I want to say this. I am not saying DTR and Kenny Pickett. That is not the case. I'm saying.
Right. You're talking about the draft. You're talking about the other compensation. It wasn't a 1-for-1. I know what you're saying.
No.
Right. Now, I said, okay, well, what was that other pick? Well, I believe, if I'm correct, you can tell me if I'm not, but it was the pick that we got from the Lions. So it was one that we had gathered in later in the season when Smith went to so we weren't giving up our own high 5th round pick, because I would have been very upset with that, because there's a lot more value at the top of the 5th than the bottom. It just I tried to look at it I tried to.
It doesn't matter. You still gave up. It doesn't matter though. You still gave up a draft asset, a 5th round draft pick, regardless of how you obtained it, for a 3rd string quarterback. That's my issue. I mean, let's talk about some notable 5th round picks in the National Football League. Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. There's a handful of these guys that. The 5th round still matters. And while it's not a sure thing, obviously we know that it's still draft capital. And I'm just surprised by that. Now, I think Kenny Pickett in the right situation is an okay backup quarterback. Like he worked in Philly. And the reason behind that is because you have a clear cut and obvious answer at who your number one quarterback is. Jalen Hurts, clearly. They could afford to go cheap and go get Kenny Pickett and, kind of sit him and let him be a serviceable backup. I'm concerned for the Browns with the lack of effort in trying to acquire a clear-cut and obvious number one, first and foremost, whether that's, trading up to 1 to get their guy, drafting their guy at number 2 even, trading for a starter, or even being aggressive in the free agency market. I think that's where a lot of the concern comes from is you gave up what for somebody that probably, hopefully, doesn't see the field. At the end of the day, you don't really want Kenny Pickett to be the guy. I don't think that he is. Maybe I'm way off base, and maybe he will be, but I mean, I just like that's what gets me is what are we doing?
I thought, okay, why would you give up that 5th pick at the bottom? And then I, of course, went and looked at how many draft picks the Browns have. I think they have 3 or 4 in the 6 and 3 or 4 now in the 7 with the compensatory picks. So I could see where, in Andrew's mind, I'm going to leverage some of those 6th and 7th round picks to get back up into the 5th round. Like that would make sense, right? If he's trying to do some stuff on draft day. So that's where I was like, okay, why would he make this move? You're right, to give up an actual asset that you have. How do you get that back? And then that's when I was like, well, heck, we have like 6 picks in the 6th and 7th round. I could see him moving back up to get that 5th pick and figuring out the 6th and 7th and let it kind of fall to them. That was one of the things I did because I was concerned with you, like, okay, but what do we have left, in the tank? And I think that was the only thing he must have had in his mind is I've got a buttload of 6th and 7th round picks that I can manipulate and get back up into the 5th round by giving, a 7th and a 6th to get a 5th, or whatever, because they have a ton of compensatory picks and stuff. So that's what I was looking at because I agreed with you. I don't like giving up assets that have already been received for something that, why did I give it up? But again, I don't know why the deal was made. I think it's because they wanted to offload his contract, and he wanted a new. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird signing, but at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to be a starter. So I think people need to just calm down on
Which
that.
is the point. Well, that's the point. You gave up a 5th round pick for a non-starter.
Yeah,
and Browns only have 2 compensatory picks. It's not like they are swimming with late round draft capital. That's not the case. Right. I don't know necessarily that the Eagles wanted to get rid of the contract. He's cheap. I mean, he's still on his rookie deal. So that's not it at all. This is a cheap contract.
Yeah.
My issue is where's the direction? There's reports saying that previously, I think this has kind of been debunked, but that the Browns are going to be aggressive in figuring out the quarterback situation. That's why Miles came back. Andrew Berry laid out this plan, and then boom, it's Kenny Pickett. I don't know. I just think that's crazy. Now, had something else happened where Russ is the guy, and then this news comes out later, like maybe nobody's going to be mad about it. But
George brings up a really good point. I mean, that is something. I mean, because Andrew Berry's kind of like he's a wheeler and dealer. He says here, do we trade Pickett? That's true. If you end up bringing a Russ and somebody else in, can you deal Kenny Pickett to another team? I mean, that is a real thing. So
I can't imagine too many teams are going to be spending anything close to what you gave up for Kenny Pickett.
But let me ask you
that.
I mean, he was the backup, right? For the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I mean, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles saw value in him and valued him as a quarterback to be able to put him on a team that ended up eventually winning the Super Bowl. So when I
Dustin, that's my entire point. Because they have a clear-cut and obvious answer at who their number one quarterback is. They can afford to take a risk on a guy like Kenny.
I'm saying they saw value in him as a backup. Because I don't think the Browns see him as a starter either, Kenny Pickett. I'm saying they must have saw a lot of value in him as a player, or they wouldn't assign him to be the backup to the starter.
Yes.
I'm just saying, that's
my point.
Yeah, I just think that at the end of the day, I think he'll be fine.
Okay, I don't know if you're cutting out a little bit or if it's just me, but we're going to go ahead and bring David on. Just kidding. I'm going to let David get the food that just arrived. I don't know. This would be weird. Anyways, we're going to bring David on. This interview is brought to you by our friends over at Lorello Vineyards.
Hey, everybody. At Here We Go Brownies Nation. We are here at Lorello Vineyards
with Larry Lorello, the owner. Let's talk about the Reds.
Yeah, we have one of the best lineup of Reds that we've ever had at the Lorella Vineyards. A couple of cabs, a Cab Franc, a Meritage, and some Montepulciano. Come on down and try some of our Reds. I think you'll be really surprised and enjoy some of the real good set of Reds that we've got here at Lorella Vineyards this year.
That's right, guys. Come out to Lorella Vineyards, less than an hour drive from Cleveland. Come enjoy it, wine a bit.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
All right, let's bring him on. Dr. David Ullery, the husband of the program. David, what's happening? How you feeling?
Hey, Allie, Dustin, feeling great. It's sushi night. Just got it from the delivery.
Nice.
Excited to dig into that later.
I was gonna say, what is on the menu tonight? And there it is. It's sushi.
Yep, sushi. I'm excited.
I love
David,
sushi
what do you got for
myself.
us tonight? Anything good going on?
So in terms of acute or recent updates from injuries and things like that, not much going on. We know that's not really the focus right now. No real updates that I can see on JOK or anything else sort of more pertinent from that. We know that we had some linemen or have some surgery in the offseason, but anticipate them to be ready to go for camp or the season at the best. So I wanted to kind of look at the players that have been signed in free agency or trades the last couple of days and just kind of review their injury history and see what the Browns are inheriting in terms of potentially health versus durability for these guys. And so I'll start off with Kenny Pickett kind of segueing from the conversation y'all were just having. Quarterback, I think tend to be a little more injury prone, especially if they're playing a lot or if they're more mobile. Overall he's been in the league since when was he drafted? Was that 2022?
Yeah.
So in college he missed 3 games for unspecified injuries, but then looking at his NFL time, he's missed 5 games total. In 2022 had a concussion, missed 1 game for that. 2023 didn't have any injuries that kept him out from any game time, and then up until the end of the season. And then in December of 2023, he had a high ankle sprain, and he actually had surgery for that. So he did have a high ankle sprain or syndesmosis injury that required surgery, and he missed the last 4 games of the season then. And then in 2024, he had a rib fracture. It was week 17, though, so he didn't really miss much time. And then obviously we know they went into the playoffs after that. And so it doesn't seem like he actually hadn't missed any games. So overall, seemingly durable, no significant long-term injuries that have come up. And, as a backup quarterback, you want someone who's durable no matter what the situation is. And so seems like, at least for now, no big lingering issues we have to worry about from him. Moving over to Malik Collins. Malik Collins really has been quite a durable player. Over his he's been in the league for half a decade, if not more now. And looking back in 2020, he missed a total of 4 games for an unspecified shoulder injury and then a hamstring strain. Beyond that, hasn't missed any time. The last 4 seasons, he has not missed a game. And so that is a durable player to put on the defensive line that I think is going to contribute and be able to be a good rotational piece that you can lean on or rely on from an injury standpoint, at least. So no real big injuries to disclose, at least based on some of the things that I'm seeing from him. 9 years. He was drafted in 2016, so that's pretty significant to only miss 4 games in a 9-year career so far. Moving forward to Joe Tryon. He has been in the league. He's 25, almost 26 years old. So he's been in the league for about 4 or 5 years, and he's missed a total of, he's been 4 years, drafted in 2021, and he's played 17 games in every season except for last year. So he's only missed 2 games, and that was to an ankle sprain. Again, nothing significant, nothing long-term there. He only missed 2 games for it. So anticipate him being a pretty good, durable player. And then the last one really to go over is Cornelius Lucas on the offensive line. Bit of a rotational player, a swing player, but I think given the offensive tackle situation right now, he may get a significant number of snaps and starts in Cleveland. And, looking at his injury history, he's missed a total of 6 games. 2020, he had an ankle sprain. 2022, ankle sprain, where he missed 3 games. And then last year, he missed week 17 because of a groin strain. So, again, all soft tissue injuries, but all grade 1, low level. got back to playing with, no significant ramifications. So at least from, the new additions so far this offseason, some pretty good durability in these players, and hopefully can contribute meaningful snaps throughout the season as we start to head towards the draft here.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, that's helpful to know. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing I saw was some reports, when Kevin Stefanski and others have been asked about JOK, they just really don't have an update. I do see that JOK has been more active on social media as of late. He's making some posts and stuff like that. But I think the longer this lingers, David, it worries me, right? Because now there's, some conversation where he may not even, they don't know if he'll even be ready to go at the start of the season next year. I think Kevin was asked, will he be at training camp? And there's just so many very 30,000 foot answers that they're like, yeah, we have no clue because it must be that serious. So I was just curious, when you hear things like that, that worries me. Is he not even going to play next year, or is he never going to play football again? And some of the things that come to mind because, obviously we want his health is the most important thing at the end of the day, and just being able to live a healthy life outside of football. Football is secondary, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are, because the more that time goes on and the less you get any more definitive, will he do, it's just nothing. And, it's just they don't even want to answer the question.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, no, it's a good question. And, as I look here, actually, I guess, as you alluded to, there's a slight update, so the injury occurred in week 8, halfway through the season, and we are now in March. And so week 8 would be, October, end of October, early November. And so that's 5 months now. And Mary Kay reported on Sunday that JOK hasn't recovered yet to the point where he can begin practicing. So I think the Browns must proceed as though they won't have him available for training camp and plan accordingly. So a little bit of speculation, but ultimately, there is news there. There is factual evidence he's not able to begin practicing. She went on to say, if his neck responds, he's able to join the team at some point, it will be tremendous news for all involved, but his health is the most important thing. And the Browns are proceeding with an abundance of caution. So, a little bit of sobering news to kind of hear that right now.
That's
that
he's
not even able to. He's not even able to begin practicing at this point, which is disheartening. Just from a personal standpoint, knowing him as a human being and knowing that he's not able to get back on the field and do the thing he loves to do. I mean, very obvious. He is a passionate player. He's a passionate human being. I mean, you see the way he comes into games every season. He's a very proud individual, proud of who he is and what his makeup and his heritage, and the fact that he can't even practice and do the thing that he's spent his entire life working towards is. It's a big bummer. So, hopefully there's good news at some point. I mean, and he can make some sort of return, but that's all we got right now.
Yeah. It's really hard. One, just hoping for the best for him as a person, but that hopefully he can return to the player that he was. But in terms of the Cleveland Browns, I mean, you really have a need now at linebacker. I know that they're trying to address that, but I've been saying for years, they really have to go out and get a good linebacking core, and that just hasn't been the case really in the past couple of years. Especially if you won't have JOK, that's going to be that's a big loss. Going into a year, depending on what they do at quarterback, there might be some promise going into the season. Without him, that's a big loss. So just wishing for the best for JOK. David and Dustin, I would just want to talk a little bit about free agency and some of the moves that have already been made. Was there a move that was really surprising to you? For me, I have 2 of them. I thought Darius Slay to Pittsburgh. I did not see that one coming. I did not expect that. Didn't like it. And then also Joey Bosa to Buffalo. That was kind of a shock.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead, David.
I agree. A shock, but I think I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the Bills as well. I think that's a pretty cool move for him, and it's going to bolster up their defense and hopefully for him, kind of revive him towards the middle and end of his career here. For me, one that kind of sticks out is the Laramie Tunsil trade out of Houston.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I mean, you have this all-world superstar offensive lineman who is the cornerstone of your line and the anchor and the guy who is protecting your franchise quarterback, and you trade him away like that. And And for, what was it, 2 picks, a second and a third rounder? It's just, I don't understand it. Obviously, we're not as into that organization as we are with the Browns. And so maybe it was an organizational thing, a character thing. I don't know. And we may never know. But that one really surprised me in terms of like moves for a playoff caliber team that, wants to take the next step.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I
then
agree.
traded to a team that's already good and on the uprise, and I mean, they looked scary in free agency. They're going to be a hell of a team to play against next year. Well, and then for me, 2 surprises, and I'm okay with this because they're in our division. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they can't figure out their quarterback position, but they signed Metcalf to this big ass contract. Like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh Steelers are spending money. Where the hell did this come from? And they don't even know who the hell is going to throw the ball to them. Now I'm like, what are we doing over here in Pittsburgh? But hey, I'm here for it because
it's fine.
yeah. As a Browns fan, you just keep doing stuff like that because I'm sitting there going, okay, you're getting rid of Russell Wilson. Clearly, he's in Cleveland tonight. Literally, he's here talking to the Browns, probably at dinner downtown here somewhere. And that was a guy that had 3 years of playing with him. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then the fact that Sam Darnold got $60 million from the Seattle Seahawks, 3 years, I think $20 million a year. And then, the one that made a lot of sense, but I didn't see coming was the reuniting of the quarterback going to the Raiders. Geno Smith to reunite with Pete Carroll. I thought that was a really cool move and actually will improve the Raiders quite a bit. And that's going to be some good. I mean, it's good for the Raiders, but some things that made sense. And then you see what the hell is going on here on the East Coast with these rotations of quarterbacks. You got Danny Dimes,
Right?
signing a 1-year deal to the Colts, and you got who knows where Joe Flacco is going to land. So Zach Jackson broke it on the fan yesterday about the whole thing. He expected Kirk Cousins to be a Brown by this weekend. I mean, he literally put it out there. And then
quick, I do want to talk about that just on what's happening with the Kirk Cousins situation. So he is currently owed the $10 million by the Falcons to be a backup if they do not release him. It is likely that the Falcons are trying to probably pry a draft pick out of the Browns to get Kirk Cousins. Doesn't seem like the Browns are it doesn't seem like the Browns are going to do that. Kind of seems like they're essentially calling their bluff, forcing the Falcons to release Kirk, which I think will ultimately happen. So I wouldn't be surprised by that, but that's kind of the situation right now in Atlanta.
Yeah, I kind of view it as like the same thing that the Rams were trying to do with Cooper Kupp, and they finally just had to release him because he just couldn't find a suitable trade partner. So, but I mean, Cooper Kupp, I mean, there's a guy out there that I think makes a lot of sense to an organization if they can bring him in because here's what's really weird about the Metcalf thing, guys. Like, I see the Steelers signing a guy like Cooper Kupp. Like, that kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But then they bring in Metcalf and they don't even know who the hell he's throwing to. I'm like, what are we doing over here? And
you've got to deal with the personality of DK Metcalf and the personality of George Pickens. I think that's an interesting situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then you got teams like the Ravens, and I was talking to Hanford. He's like, he always gets pissed because he's friends with Ozzie, and every time the Ravens make a shrewd or good business decision, he's like, man, they signed DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hops for only $5 million. That's a pretty good, low ceiling for entry point if you can get, if Lamar can get the ball to him. Like, the Ravens are making those little strategic moves, and I feel like I hate to say this, but I feel like the Steelers they look like a desperate football team right now with some of the stuff they're doing to try to kind of ante up and play at the same level. And just to say it out, I don't know what the Bengals are doing. I just don't know if they just went on vacation because they released their the defensive end and they're like, they don't pay their players. Like, I don't know what's going on in there.
Yeah, I think honestly, the AFC North as a whole, outside of Baltimore, to be honest, I don't know what the other 3 teams are doing. Like, I don't know the direction that all 3 teams are going down. I think we have a better idea of the Browns. Obviously, we're plugged in. We know what we're talking about. The Bengals, granting Trey Hendrickson to seek a trade. They're a pretty cheap organization. I don't anticipate, them to pay. I mean, I think they'll pay their players, but it's a different situation. They're gonna do everything that they can not to pay their players. Then Pittsburgh, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what they're doing. It's kind of weird. But all right, David, I'm gonna kick you off. It's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, love being here. I love it.
I'm getting hungry. It's time to eat. So we're gonna wrap up. All right, David, thanks for joining us. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
All right, Dustin, just real quick before we wrap up, just a couple of other things that maybe we didn't get to. The Browns did release Dalvin Tomlinson as well as Juan Thornhill. As you know, those will both be post June 1st designations. So with that, the Browns released Tomlinson. He was due $29 million over the course of 2 years, but they signed Malik Collins with the Browns. He's younger, a little bit more dynamic. He's 2-year, $20 million, so they get younger and they go cheaper. I think that's a good signing. I feel pretty good about that. I still think that the Browns need help on the defensive line. I'm curious to see what that's going to look like over the course of the next couple of days. And then we talked about the DK deal. That's really about it in terms of Browns news and updates currently. But as you all know, free agency this time of year is a very fluid situation. So I'm sure by this time next week, it's going to be an entirely different conversation. So that's just the way that this time of year goes. But Dustin, just a couple of things before we wrap up. Got to talk about our friends over at We Bleed Ohio.
Yeah, guys, check out Here We Go Brownies merch over there. We have the hoodies and the T-shirts. But if you're an organization that wants custom shirts made, custom designs, he does that over there. He does an amazing job. And of course, We Bleed Ohio has all the cool designs of like basketball themed, baseball themes, and football themed Cleveland teams. That's the most appropriate PC way to say it, so I don't get in trouble. But they have some really cool designs. Allie, I think yours is probably going to. Did you get yours yet? Did yours come in the mail yet? Did you get those yet?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so Allie will be supporting some of those shirts and stuff like that. And then, of course, our good friends over at, I was going to say, Lady Caroline, our friends over at Lady Caroline. By the way, I saw them getting the ship already. They're cleaning it up. They're getting everybody ready for the spring.
Nice.
I think everybody's ready. This has been a long winter to go out there and check out that ship. We're going to do a Here We Go Brownies cruise at some point this summer. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then, by the way, if you're down there, go to the Greater Cleveland Aquarium. Check out the shark tank and all the different species that they have down there. But it's just a really cool area right down there by the lake. So take it in, take a trip on the Lady Caroline, have lunch, go over to the Greater Cleveland Aquarium and take in Cleveland and be a tourist, or just have a weekend and go do some fun things with the kids or grandkids. So.
Yeah. And Jason is spot on. I'm ready to smash that sushi. It's true. I'm starving. Wednesdays are hard because so this show goes on at 7 Eastern, which is 6 o'clock my time. And I enjoy it because I have the rest of the evening to, just to enjoy and spend with the family. But leading up to it, it's hard. I work from home. And I'm typically always so busy on Wednesdays. I don't know why. Those are just my meeting days. I am so busy at work on Wednesdays. So I can't get like dinner prepared really. Then we go on. So we always do takeout on Wednesdays, just making it quick and easy. So it is sushi for us tonight. All right, Dustin, anything else as we wrap up on a beautiful Wednesday evening?
No, guys, just look for some announcements of some more players and other guests to be coming on. We'll have some of those confirmed up for next Wednesday, possibly. And of course, Nathan Zagura said he would come back in after all the free agency craziness was over to kind of give us an update. But guys, got some exciting things coming up. Look forward to the next couple of weeks. I can't exactly tell you yet, but look forward to some cool stuff coming.
Yeah, there you go. There you have it. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy. And as always, Browns fans, go Browns.